You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hey everyone, welcome to Modern Musicology. My name is Rob Levy. I am filling in as the chief dishwasher for this episode and doing the intro and everything. Alan is, in the parlance of the industry, on assignment, and Anthony Williams is also on assignment. They will be back very, very soon. My name is Rob Levy, and I am joined by my fellow henchperson partner in crime, the talented Stephanie Seymour. How are you?
I am fine. Hi, everybody. How is everybody doing?
So it's been a week. We've had a lot of stuff going on, and we've listened to lots of music, and we've been doing stuff. And I just thought, since we're down to two, we just sort of hang out and keep it cash.
I love it.
Do the kids say keep it cash? Is that what they say now?
They don't. They might say that, but I don't really know, Rob.
I'm trying to be down with the kids, and I'm not sure it's working. But so we have Stephanie with us, and Stephanie is a wealth of incredible stories and things happening throughout her life, because she's done all kinds of stuff. And we are going to do a proper Tina Turner thing very soon. But I thought I'd open with you telling us your Tina Turner story, because I think it's really a hoot.
Yes, and also just because obviously we are all, I think, heartbroken over her passing and her legendary status. But this just sort of shows what a wonderful human being she is. I used to work at Virgin Records. I used to work at Island first and then Virgin, and we had the GoldenEye soundtrack, and Tina sung that song. So she came up to visit our offices, and that was at 1790 Broadway in the city, the New York City, down and dirty city. She came up to visit our offices at 1790 Broadway, and she went around to every single person in that office and met and talked and looked in the eye and spoke to every single person, and was took a picture with everybody. Was so sweet. Kind and generous is really what I can, say offhand. She just made everybody feel special. And I think I feel like I'm getting sadder and sadder about her loss. It was such a shock. And I don't know, I thought it was such a testament to her as a person to see all my colleagues, my former colleagues from Virgin Records, posting their picture with Tina from that day and saying the kindest things about her. It's really hard to find somebody in the business that is of that stature and that is so kind and humble. And the other person that comes to mind that was just like that is David Bowie.
So I was thinking about this, and I've been reading all the tributes and everything all week from everybody, right? Just there's tons of them everywhere from people, and I've been looking them over, and I thought about this, and I took a deep dive because we lost Aretha Franklin a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I started to compare the post-death Aretha world to the post-death Tina Turner world, and reading between the lines, I think everyone, loved Aretha professionally, thought she was amazing, etc. But I think everybody just loved Tina Turner, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm sure Aretha was a wonderful human being as well. But you're right. Tina was really beloved by so many people, and for the reasons I just said. I mean, she was just a kind and generous person and soul.
And I'm in St. Louis, so Tina Turner was born in Tennessee, but when she was young, she moved to St. Louis. So she spent actually more time here than she did in Tennessee. And there is a place called the Imperial Ballroom. It's fallen apart and decrepit now, and it's sad, but just literally tons of people went through there and played. And I think there's talk of finally renovating it or doing something. But she has a star on our Walk of Fame. And
Okay.
there has been just a huge outpouring of stuff put on her star all week. Like people are making big signs. It's incredible.
That's
And
so
I would
sweet.
venture to say that it is as much as, if not more than Chuck Berry when Chuck Berry passed. Um,
Wow.
so, but yeah, and she's
Yeah.
from here. She went to Sumner High School. The effect that she had on this city is really profound,
Mhm.
and just the outpouring here has been amazing. But just around the world,
I know.
you read them stuff from Mick Jagger,
Yeah.
and it's like when I read Mick Jagger made a real quick. I mean, he later did a really longer statement, but there was a really short one from him, just like, "Who am I going to dance with?"
Oh,
When we look at David Bowie dancing, I think of the Dancing in the Streets video. That's the first thing I think of.
yeah.
But when I look at Bowie dancing and Jagger dancing, and then I watch Tina Turner dancing, and I did
Yeah.
not know any of this in real time until now, like the last couple of weeks. I'm like, okay, they totally did it, right?
That Vulture article was great that you sent me with all the links of the people that she like topped, like their songs that she either, she was covering, but she was singing duets with or whatever, but she
Yeah,
was outshining those stars, Mick Jagger, Bowie,
yeah.
all these. It was great.
And like, there's a great video of her singing Tonight with David Bowie that surfaced this week. That's amazing. And
Mm.
what's interesting too is I was reading something by Martin Ware of Heaven 17, who does a really great podcast called Electronically Yours. And he was talking about, and I had completely forgot that Heaven 17 recorded 2 songs with Tina Turner, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't.
And they talked about like they're at the house, Tina Turner's house. First of all, they're like, "Oh my God, we're in Tina Turner's house," and the English are very reserved, so they get very excited easily. And then it's like, and then she walked in, and there was that moment. It sounds like where they weren't sure. You never know when something.
Yeah, what the
And
personality
all
is
of a
like.
sudden, like, oh my God, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I haven't heard anything bad about Tina Turner all week,
Me
right?
neither.
Whereas like when Aretha and some of these other people die, you hear, oh, they were fantastic, but they could be. You always hear a but. I haven't heard any of that with her, which is
And it was like
interesting.
the same with Bowie too. I feel like they're both sort of,
And
same kind of feelings.
I feel terrible because I have not done her catalog justice, right? I mean, I've listened to it and stuff, but I haven't dived as deep as I could a lot. And I freely admit that I had a hard time for the longest time listening to the Ike and Tina records because I was just so repulsed by Ike Turner
Oh yeah.
that it made it really hard to listen to their records together, right?
Yeah.
But upon hindsight, it's all her, right? I mean,
Yeah, it is.
they're
I
very
was
busy to,
watching like that Ike's performance of the Beatles medley, and you're just like, there's no, I mean, they just kill it, and it's them, right? It's just that it's really them. That's
yeah,
the Tina and Ikeettes.
yeah. So,
Anyway, so I
so I
know we're
wanted to
gonna
talk
do
about
our
Tina Turner.
yeah.
Let's talk about your record label times, right?
Okay. Which is, by the way, we just have to give the listener a little full disclosure. That's how Rob and I met because
Well,
you were,
we met technically over the phone
well,
because
yes,
I
of
was the
course.
music director at KCFV,
Mhm.
and then you would call to work records,
Yes, I was the
and
college radio rep
and
for
I I,
Island.
I think I probably skipped more classes because I was talking to you on the phone
Oh, great.
than I should have.
I'm
So
responsible
my
for
low
you.
stature in life is all your fault. And so we talk about records, because there's some of the college label people you talk to and some that didn't. And you would always call after 2 people that were particularly horrible, and the really lovely woman who worked at Geffen. And we'd always end up talking about records. And then you left Island and went to work at Virgin,
That's right.
and
After I
then
toured. Mhm.
Charisma and stuff like that. You were at Network for a while, correct?
Well, I was at Network because I was signed to Network, right? So my band got signed to Network. My band, the Aquanets, got signed to
Yeah.
Network after I was during my time at Island Records. We got signed, and then we went off to make a record. And that actually, my boss was so lovely to let me go make that record for a whole month in Canada, and then I came back and still had a job at Island. But after I had to quit and go on tour for a few months, that was when I really did have to quit then at that point. So then you're right. When I came back, I came back as a freelancer at Charisma Records, which then folded later into Virgin Records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think every curve thing I have is because of you.
That's right. All curve. All any kind of memorabilia or like promo items and stuff. I loved giving that stuff away because it was a treat for
Yeah.
everyone to receive it, but it also really did help the bands.
I ended up getting to meet Kirsty McCall because of you.
Oh yeah,
And I got to meet the Pogues because of you.
that's right. You did meet the Pogues.
So I went to, you got us on the list for the Pogues for the If I Should Fall from Grace with God tour.
Yes.
And I met the Pogues. Shane MacGowan was, I went after we got to go backstage afterwards, and everybody in the band signed my record and my program book, and they were all amazing.
Yeah, I think I know this story.
Terry Woods is like, "You're not going to get Shane." I'm like, I don't care, So Shane is leaned against a doorway. He's holding a cigarette like that way that people do. Can barely stand, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, what? And Terry Woods is like, he wants to know if you want him to sign your book, and I'm like, oh, okay. So he signs it, and I said, that was a really fantastic show. And at the time, it was the best show I'd ever seen. Mm-hmm. I said, that's probably the best concert I've ever seen. And then once I said that, I said, oh, thank you. It's like suddenly he was coherent, right? And it was weird because we were back there for like 45 minutes. And the more Shane MacGowan drank, the better I could understand him.
That's hilarious.
So I had him sign I had all of them sign my program book and my 12-inch single for Fairy Tale of New York.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you were working at Charisma, you worked the Kirsty McCall record.
Yeah.
And I had her sign my copy of Walking Down Madison.
Yes.
Right?
What a great song.
Which is another story in and of itself later. But I had her sign the 12-inch for that and another album. And then I had her sign my 12-inch for Fairy Tale of New York.
Sweet.
Right.
Sweet.
And that's when she said, you know what? The best thing that happened to me with this record was, and I said, no. Then she said, Chrissie Hynde said no.
I don't.
So originally Chrissie Hynde was offered the vocals for Fairy Tale of New York. It was written for Chrissie Hynde to sing, and she either couldn't do it or passed it up.
I had no idea. Isn't that interesting?
And Kirsty was doing it in rehearsals, whatever. And they're like, well, let's just have Kirsty do it.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you watch the video for that, I don't know if you've seen, I watch it every year because my Christmas is basically Fairy Tale of New York from Thanksgiving to New Year's. Have you seen the video for it?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure I did. I just don't
remember.
So
Matt Dillon is in, when he's in at the beginning, when they're in jail, right?
Okay.
Matt Dillon is in jail, with Shane MacGowan. Joe Strummer's in the jail with Shane MacGowan. And I think John Lydon is.
Okay.
But so he was in jail with him. So anyway, you're working at Island, and you worked records by, let's see, the Buck Pets.
The Buck Pets, one of my favorites, and Driving and Crying.
I remember you working that. I remember you working Top.
Top?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Number one Dominator. It was horrible. Then you worked some of the other cool stuff like Definition of Sound.
Yes.
And PM Dawn.
Oh my gosh, we had so many good bands.
And that's when I think the first awkward moment we had when you said PM Dawn's record's great. They sampled Spandau Ballet. And I told you how much I hated Spandau Ballet. And you said, I've never met anyone who hates True by Spandau Ballet. And then the next two phone calls, you were like, really? You still have
It's never changing. We had really great offshoot labels too from Island Records, like the Fourth and Broadway label. And
yeah, because you gave me the 49ers record.
Mm-hmm. Probably Eric B.
Yeah, because I did the dance music show too.
Mm-hmm. We had the great reggae stuff, of course.
I think I got some Ziggy. I think you had a Ziggy Marley record.
No, Ziggy was actually Virgin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it the Etal? You sent me some reggae thing.
Oh, I know. I'm sure I sent you a lot. But
you sent me a Marley. There's like a Marley thing you sent me. It's like a box set thing.
We had the Marley catalog. So
yeah,
I mean, obviously that was really what started
sort of like
Island.
the first time I'd really heard Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about how, I know you've done a little bit of this before, but talk about how you sort of got in the door at Island then.
I was going to NYU, and I was a music business major. And since I had already done all the business courses, because I was actually in the business school first, and I kind of flipped out and I was like, what am I doing in this stupid business school? So I switched my major and I became a music business major. So one of the requirements was, you had to get an internship somewhere real. And since U2 was my favorite band at the time, and I was just intent on working wherever they were, I I literally picked the phone up. I called Island Records and I said, I need an internship, and they gave it to me. And so that's how I got my foot in the door there. My school was literally 3 blocks from
Yeah.
the office. Yeah. So I would walk there after school and just work there. When I was, interning, it was maybe, I don't know how many credits. I had to do a certain amount of credits. But when those credits were completed, I actually got a part-time job there because I knew I
Yeah.
had hopped to Virgin as an intern just for a little while, but then I shortly, realized, oh, I really want to be at Island. The people were fabulous, and I just didn't want to ever leave. Really, it was the it was the best job I ever had in my life.
To frame this is like
1986 when I first started.
Okay, because I think I met you in 88 or 89.
Right, and I was already full time then.
Because I got out of high school at 87, and I started at college. I was at KCFE, and I started doing news. I was like the news guy in the morning for this guy that had a show. And then one day, because you couldn't do a show right away, you had to take intro to broadcasting, all this other nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one day he decided that he was going to do person in the hallway interviews. So he grabs the mic cable and extends it from the outside the studio, it's at least 50 feet, right? He took every piece of cable and he's doing this. And after like 5 minutes, I'm like, this is effing stupid. So I just put records on.
Yeah.
So he's out in the hallway, blah, 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 blah. And the music director at the time comes in and he's like, does he know he's not on the radio? And I said, no. And he's like, and you're just putting the records on? Yeah. And he's like, are you talking or anything? It's like, well, if I talk, it kind of lets everyone know that, I'm on the radio and I shouldn't be. And he's like, oh, okay. So then like a week later, I ended up getting, I was like granted to be a fill-in.
I see.
Right.
But
I filled in for the stoner guy, the guy that was so stoned that he always forgot to do a show. So I was guaranteed that his 7, and it worked out great because he was on 7 to 9, and my first class was at 10 on Tuesdays. So I was just showing up early just to kind of, nothing else, I could work on homework and stuff, right? Because I pretty much knew that 8 out of 10 times this guy was going to be too stoned to do a show. So I just ended up kind of doing it. And then I just kind of tagged along and learned as much as we could about all that stuff. And then there was a music director ahead of me, and then he left, and then I ended up getting it. And then I got to talk to you all the time. Yep, I got to talk to you too all the time. Not you two, the band, but you. I'm trying to think what else you worked besides the Buck Pets and the.
Oh gosh, so many. Kim Rogers, who I am in touch with still. Okay. She had a fabulous record.
You worked the Frank record, didn't you?
Yes, we did. We worked Frank. She was so great too.
So I had Frank was a lesbian female singer, right? Kind of like a lesbian Billy Bragg. Is that fair to say?
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So she played a show at the Cicero's Basement Bar. This is right when I Enjoy Being a Girl came out.
Yes.
Okay. And I had my wisdom teeth pulled out the afternoon of the show. And I was on the guest list.
What a trooper, Rob. You're going to tell me you're going to go to the show with it.
I planned on not going, but I ended up like, I don't feel bad. I just got this, I'm like, I don't feel bad. I think I'm going to go. And I'm glad I did it because she never came here again. So I went and I saw her, and she was hilarious. She told funny stories.
Yes.
And it was great. And after the show, she comes up to me. She goes, are you okay? And I nodded, and she's like, you didn't laugh at any of my jokes or anything. And the person that I was with in the station said, well, he had his wisdom teeth pulled out today. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you can't. I'm like, and then I got a big giant hug.
Aww.
And she gave me like a guitar pick, and I got like a free shirt. And she's like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And I'm like, yeah.
You're a trooper.
Well, it didn't hurt, What did hurt is the Jesus and Mary Chain had an album come out that afternoon, and so did Severed Heads. They both put out albums that week, and I was listening to them, and listening to the Jesus and Mary Chain physically made my gap, which I couldn't really then I'm like, oh, I'm listening to headphones. So there's something through the reverb of the headphones that made the Jesus and Mary Chain physically hurt me.
That's insane. I have to tell you that that jogged my memory. We put out Melissa Etheridge. We first record. Well, more than that, but I'm just saying that was one of my favorite things to promote. She was absolutely, again, one of the nicest people of all time. And we just saw the rip roaring show of all time at the Bottom Line. I mean, I remember that show. We were, people were like hanging from the rafters. It was so amazing.
Yeah. And then I remember at the time, and I don't think I've ever asked you this. I know you made an effort to work a lot of the female artists at Island harder than you worked a lot of the other stuff. And I don't know whether that was intentional or not.
Oh, I did. I mean,
but the Kim Richards, you were like, you're going to play this record or I'm going to break your neck.
Well, I don't know if I would have broken your neck, but
you were like,
reach through the phone. No, but I don't know if I did that intentionally. Honestly, I don't think I did, because you saying that doesn't make me say, oh yeah, I did that on purpose. So interesting. I don't recall.
I remember you getting excited about Melissa Etheridge and Frank and those records.
But they were so good. I mean, all these records you're talking about are great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but at the time, this is where it gets interesting too, is that at the time, the quote unquote college radio rep was very male and and I have like 2 or 3 friends that were my college reps that I'm still really good friends with. And they're all dudes. And like 90% of the people we dealt with were guys. And I remember thinking one day, that's like, that can't be easy.
I honestly, and I think we talked about this in another show, I don't recall there being such a discrepancy, at least in what I did. In other words, college radio promotion or video, when I did video promotion. I don't remember there being, it dominated by males. Honestly, I had many female colleagues that did just what I did. And I also feel like in the music industry in general, now I probably have a bit of a hazy memory on this, but I do remember a lot of female role models and examples. So
there was a really cool girl that worked the front desk at Virgin that I went out drinking with a lot.
Giovanna?
Yeah.
Italian, really beautiful, darker.
Yeah.
Well, hi, Gio. We're saying hi to you right now. Gio still works in the music industry.
I think it was only twice, and it was by chance. I ran into her at like a show, because I and it was by myself, and we just drank. And then I ran into her, I think 2 weeks later at another show. And I said, well, you bought all the rounds last time. Should I buy them? And it wasn't like crazy. I think there's like 2 or 3 times that we exchanged drinks.
If that was Giovanna, she is still in the music industry. And she has become a massive, awesome PR, magnate. I'll call her a magnate. But she's super, super awesome and so talented. And
she didn't give me the 3rd degree whenever I'd come up to the office at Virgin. And then you had another guy that worked at Virgin that I would see a couple times out at shows, and I can't remember his name, but he was
Tommy.
Very nice.
Maybe he was also a promotion person.
Yeah, he was a promotion person. He goes, Steph, and I'd see him out a couple times.
Tommy was the college radio person. Tommy and Chuck. I was freelance.
Yeah.
And Chuck was the full-time college radio person. So we worked together for a long time. And then I went into the video world. And then Tommy, I believe, took over that job after Chuck sort of moved up. Okay. So you might have met either one of them.
And I think Tommy got the job after you left, maybe.
Well, I was still at Virgin, but I was doing video.
That's right. Yeah, because I was decluttering the other day and I found the video cassette of the Blur, the Universal you gave me.
Yes. So that was we had so many great bands, but
and I might give this to Alan, but I found the video you gave me. It's just Tuesday's Child by David Bowie.
Oh yeah, that's
on
me.
A video by itself. Yeah,
that's the Thursday's Child.
Yeah,
and that is the one that I told you, I think, about David Bowie walking down the hallway to me.
Yeah, tell that story. That's amazing. I love this. I could listen to this story all the time.
It was just like a dream. We had a giant loft that we worked in on 23rd Street. We had moved from our 1790 offices down to 23rd. It was a big loft, and there was wood floors that were around the perimeter of the thing. And my office wasn't even an office. It was just like an outside of my boss's kind of thing. But I had a whole giant area for all the videotapes. And this desk was like 20 feet long. So I recall hearing footsteps, and I pulled my chair out, and I like see David Bowie coming down the hallway at me. And I'm like, there's no way this could even be real. And I just turn around because my boss is right behind me in her office. And I'm like, he's got to be going there. But no, David Bowie stops right with me and he says, "Hi, I'm David Bowie." Like as if
Like
I
he has to
didn't know.
introduce himself.
"Hi, I'm David," or something. And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And he needed some copies of his video. So we sat there together and he made small talk with me for about 5 or 10 minutes, which was like the nicest thing ever. And looking at pictures on my desk and picking them up and saying, like, "Is this your mom?" So sweet and kind. And he also, there was a time when we all went out to the LA for, it was probably for a meeting of all of our company. It was a yearly meeting. And David Bowie was there too. And he was working the whole room of all of us, all our crazy souls, and did the same thing. I was super kind, like just like Tina was doing, walking around, speaking to everybody, taking a picture with everybody, and just being so wonderful. And that to me meant so much.
My kind of story like that is when I was doing some radio stuff for Elektra. And Mermaid Avenue came out. Billy Bragg. They did a thing at CMJ with Billy Bragg and Woody Guthrie's daughter. Billy Bragg played, and then he ended up walking around the entire room. And I mentioned a couple times that I'd seen him. And I had like 10 different questions. But I must have annoyed the shit out of Billy Bragg because I had like 10 different questions about it. And he's like, "I really love the fact that, you listen to my record." And I'm like, yeah, he was like so polite. So when I worked at Elektra, it was weird because the first artist at Elektra I met, because I was in town for CMJ and we had sort of like meetings for all of us. And I was non-commercial radio, but I just Missouri and Iowa. So I was calling like
you were explain to people. So you were a rep. You were a regional rep.
Yeah.
Right?
Now I didn't. I had a couple small stations. They had like a main guy that did it, and then I kind of got the leftovers he didn't want. But I was the guy that took the posters to record stores, or set up listening parties, or like if a band came through town, I'd hand out stuff at the shows, stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Because it was part of my internship for school. The first person Elektra I met was Bjork. Yeah. And I'm just gonna say, first of all, she was lovely. Yeah. She was really short.
She's really super short. I have a Bjork story too. Go ahead.
My conversation with Bjork started with, "Jesus Christ, you're short," which just blurted out, and she just started cackling. And Bjork has this like weird sort of cackle laugh that's like great. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry." Did she put her arm on my shoulder? And she said, "Oh no, it's okay." I'm like, she's like, I'm at least happy that I'm almost as tall as Prince." I'm like, okay, fair enough. Right. And so it was great, and I got a couple things signed. I was talking to her, and my God, don't ever talk about the sugar cubes is all we said. And I said, "I've loved all your records." I said, when I was first started doing college radio, I played the shit out of Life's Too Good. And
what
it was
a great record.
And I said, that was such a great band, and I'm so happy you've had success. And she's like, I'm just glad that somebody listened to that band and listens to me now, and I was like, oh my God, I talked about sugar. I've done 2 things now. Right. But she was absolutely lovely. And then I never saw her live though, until the Homogenic tour. I saw her, I think at the House of Blues in Chicago. Yeah. I've never seen anyone until I saw Madonna and Rip Taylor, not together, do as many costume changes for a show. Yes. It was like insane. But I met her when I worked at Elektra. And so Elektra had this is the whole point of the story that I got sidetracked on. They had Metallica was their big band, right? Was Elektra's big band. Elektra's big band. It was like, oh yeah, they were huge. It was the fuel that drove the car. They had an entire floor of all their people. And I don't know if it was a joke or whatever, but they said they wanted everything covered in leather. That had to be a joke, but okay. If you go up there and like literally everything's covered in leather. The desks have the little leather things around the bottom of them. The couches, they have leather couches. It's just like it was just surreal. That's like no green M&Ms times a million. I think they were kidding, but somebody like was, yeah. And when when anybody in that band sneezed, everybody jumped. They jumped through hoops for them. So
I have a good Metallica story because
yeah,
my coworker Chuck, who I was with, actually, okay, so here's a little inside scoop. Chuck and I dated for a year. Hi, Chuck. We're still in touch. Hi, Chuck. But Chuck brought me to, because he was friends with Kirk from Metallica. They knew each other from like Palo Alto or whatever. So Kurt sent a limousine for us to go to the show. He picked us up, and we like watched the show from the side of the stage the whole time. It was so crazy and sick. Like, I had never had that kind of star treatment before, because that was really like friend of the band thing, of a
yeah.
massive band like that. And I was not friends with any bands that were like that big. So anyway, and then limo home too, which was super nice. And Kirk, also one of the nicest people. So sweet, just like so humble and down to earth.
That's
you see
nice.
them rocking out on stage, and you don't, and then you hear them speak, and it's just like 100% like like a 180.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So you're at Virgin and you're working a ton of records there and you're doing
Mhm.
video promotion stuff. At what point did you decide to get out of doing radio promotion?
At radio and video, I mean, when did I
Yeah.
just want to leave the music industry?
Yeah.
I wanted to leave the music industry probably 3 years before I actually left the music industry. Okay, here's the thing. Doing college radio, which I did for many years, at one point which is when I switched into video, it was like I was still talking to like 18-year-old people, and I was at that point like 25 or so, or
And it gets a
26 or
little old.
27. And yeah, no, I got old.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't play that game anymore. I'm not the hippest little kid in the world anymore, And so it was such a relief to go into video, and just really was great to work with a lot of regional video shows around the
Mhm.
country, because my boss was the person that dealt with MTV and VH1, and I helped her, and I knew all those people, and they're
Mhm.
all fabulous. But I loved what I did, which was working with large and small shows across the
Yeah.
country, providing videos for them. But there came a time when my boss called me into her office and showed me the Spice Girls video. Anthony's going to hate me for this, our co-host Anthony, because I think he's a Spice Girls fan, isn't he? I get called into the office. We're watching the Spice Girls video, and I said to myself, if that's what I'm going to have to promote to people, I can't, like, in good consciousness, I just can't do it, because I appreciate it. I do, the fact that it's a good pop song, but to me, as a musician, as a person who struggled to make fucking rock and roll music my whole life, and really had, like, I thought I paid my dues. I still pay my friggin' dues. I just thought, like, I don't know. I can't do it. Not to say that those girls didn't work hard at what they
But
did
there was
either.
a lot of prefabbed
Yeah,
music
it
in the
rubbed
mid
me the
90s.
wrong way, in
Yeah.
the worst way. And at that point, I said, I have to get the hell out of this business. But I didn't know what else to do. I had done it my whole life. And I had done it before even. I mean, I did it
Yeah.
as an intern. I was stuck. I was like trapped. I felt trapped, and I just kept working there. And about 3 years later, EMI had massive layoffs, and it was like there was 1,800 people or so worldwide that were let go, but in phases. And so phase one, all my friends dropping like flies. It was terrible. It was like a massacre. Phase two, all my friends going, leaving, goodbye, and I'm still there. And I'm like, you got to be kidding! I'm the one that wants to be out of here,
Yeah.
And finally, phase three, boom. I saw the HR person, like I heard the HR person or something like that on the phone with my boss. And I was like, oh my God, thank you, God. It's terrible to say, but we got good packages. I got unemployment too. I think I made more money in that year than I ever
Mhm.
made in my life. And I was free. And that's really what happened. I couldn't take it anymore, and the craziness and the nuttiness, and dealing with people who had massive egos when they really shouldn't have
Yeah.
had massive egos.
Did you clear out the closet before you left?
I didn't
Did you get
really
like
need to.
every?
I had it all.
Okay,
I had all it. I had all
okay,
the CDs. I had the stuff I wanted, and you know, um, I still have friends. I mean, I could get stuff now if I wanted to, probably,
yeah,
from a few places. I didn't care about that. It was
yeah,
more just I needed a change in my life, and I felt like I
yeah,
kind of not outgrew it because people still do it and
yeah.
enjoy it, and that's great. But I just
It can
it
burn
burned
you
me
out.
out.
Yeah,
It burned me out, and it burned me out also because I was also a musician, and I was burned out from sort of seeing what happens to
yeah.
bands sometimes.
Well, what's weird is I was kind of like, because when I was doing the Electra intern thing, I was like, okay,
Mhm.
maybe I want to, cross over and do radio promotion
Mhm.
because I could do it. And I had a couple. I interviewed for a gig at Real World in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I got flown to Milwaukee. I was like excited. I'm gonna get flown for an interview, right? It's Milwaukee
Not glamorous.
in the fucking winter.
Although we love
Um,
you Milwaukeeans.
and it wasn't, there was no Peter Gabriel or anything. It was like, so
Yeah.
I didn't get it, which is fine. And then I had a chance to work for a radio marketing company in LA, but they were going to give me the same amount of money I was going to make in St. Louis. And I'm like, I'm not living in LA and
Mhm.
I'm not doing that. That's nuts. So at that point, I was kind of burnt out,
Yeah.
right? And radio was like, I was dejected because the commercial alternative station here started when I was in Brooklyn, and I came home. They like, yeah, you don't know enough about music, and you don't have enough of a personality, so we're gonna
Oh my
pass.
god.
We're gonna
Yeah.
pass. So then I got, I went and finished up my degree, and then at a school, and then ended up at the community radio station, and I just been doing a weekly show and it's kind of my speed, right?
Mhm.
Um,
I
so
know, and it's great.
It's interesting because we both kind of got burnt out in different
Yeah.
ways,
And
right?
we went, but yet we continued in our own way.
And I don't like I don't have, I marveled by this. I don't have like hours, like, do you have hours? Like, no,
Yeah,
email me.
you're right. You get to make your schedule, which is fantastic.
I do miss I remember when Nirvana came out, the woman that was working at Geffen sent, well, the second thing she did is she sent an album and a CD to every person that did a
I
show on
remember you telling
KCFE,
us that.
right?
Yep.
But through a month before the record came out, she's like,
Wow.
I'm sending you something.
Wow.
It's coming courier. You cannot play it on the radio,
Yeah.
but it's going to shake the world and you need to be ready.
So amazing.
And I remember going in with like our production director, who was like a big, he was into all the sub pop bands and just really good, guitar rock and stuff. He really loved the Descendants and all and stuff. And literally over and
Wow.
over. And there's certain things you remember, like, just probably, the one thing about college radio is I remember running into Moby every day in New York for an entire week randomly. I remember stealing a cab accidentally from St. Etienne, and we just ended up sharing a cab. I remember I was at the Limelight one night, and Daryl Hall was trying to pick up my girlfriend.
No.
And I was like, hey, John Oates is looking for you. And I grabbed her and just walked away. I was at the Limelight when Madonna was filming her, I think it was the Deeper and Deeper video, and they cleared everybody out.
Oh, I thought you said that. Oh, what was the thing what was it at Limelight when they wouldn't let anyone leave? What was that? Who was that?
Oh, yeah. We couldn't, there was like certain rooms you couldn't go in because Madonna was filming the video. Right?
Oh, okay. I thought
And
there
so
was
like some of us were there, and we got there, and they let a couple people in. And then they realized, wait a minute, Madonna's shooting the video. These people can't be, but like in order to leave, you had to go through part of where they were filming. So you couldn't.
okay.
So the cool side's like, hey, you guys want to watch a video be made, but you can't leave, and it was cool, but
That's cool.
so and I didn't get to meet Madonna or anything, but and then we met Depeche Mode at the Limelight. They were just kind of walking around being cool in their leather jackets.
Yeah.
And the two nicest people were Alan Wilder and Andy. Martin Gore was nice. I don't remember much about meeting Dave Gahan. I just remember going out and, doing that all the time. And it sort of tied in with the radio thing. And I got burnt out on that too. Right.
Well,
So the whole thing just kind of burns you out. Right?
It does. I mean, that's what you were just saying. Like when you're going out, you're meeting people. When you have to go out every night or every other night to see a show, and also to be responsible for the radio stations and or video people who are coming
Yeah.
there to see the show, and get them the backstage passes, do the meet and greet, because you're not leaving after the show. You have to do the meet
Yeah.
and greets and make sure everyone meets, gets their autographs, gets to talk to, gets their drink tickets.
I never had to deal with all that, but wow. Okay.
Well, it's like, I think I left when I was maybe 35 or something, but
Yeah.
I wasn't 22.
So 5 years ago.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I wasn't, 22 anymore, and I wasn't like pulling an all-nighter every night. Got to be a little hard.
Oh my God.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
Also, I didn't sleep. I have insomnia so badly that I'd go home and I would be up for 3 days, and I was fried at both ends so badly,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I read most of the comic books and stuff I really read in the 90s. I read at like 2 a.m. or taking the subway to work. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Because you don't have time.
do you have any MTV stories? See if your MTV stories are the same as mine.
Oh! I have a fabulous MTV story. Well, because yes, we used to go there I used to go there all the time with my bosses. But and I have to once again say that everyone that worked over at MTV and VH1 they were all so wonderful, and I just have so many great memories of the staff people. But one of my favorite times was going up with my boss, Joanna, who is also known as Spock. And remember, we were going to have Spock on with Teresa on our episode where we interviewed Teresa Kiriakis, who is a punk rock photographer, a wonderful, amazing photographer. So Spock and I went up to the offices. So we get out of our car, we come up to the doors of 1515 Broadway, and I get to the panel of doors, and literally coming out the doors at me are all 5 of the Go-Go's.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
They're my heroes. So I literally was so I was so stunned. I went and I backed into a wall. I backed up into a wall, and I nearly passed out. And Spock, who knows them all from LA from a million years ago, she was just like, "Hey, Jane, hey, Gina, hey." And I was like literally like panting and hyperventilating in the corner. And so finally Spock notices me like doing that, and she brings me over and she's like, "Hey, this is Jane. This is like," and I was just like, I'm going to die right here.
That's way better than my MTV story.
Tell me yours.
I went there once because the girl I was seeing had a friend that worked there, but I went by there. I was on my way somewhere else, and I was walking by the MTV building, and I saw Kurt Loder walk out of like I was walking towards it, and he was coming out of the building, and so I'm kind of walking the same way as Kurt Loder, and I said, "Hey, man, I really love your work," and he's like, "I don't have time to talk," and keeps going.
Oh shit.
But then I thought about it, and I'm like, at that particular time, he was the last man standing. Sort of him, I think even John Norris was gone at that point. So I bear no grudge.
Did you see a TRL live or anything like that?
No. I have 2 other MTV stories, but I'll tell you those later because they're damaging. But it was always interesting, sort of like when I would stop by your office, because you always had like people coming in and out, and I'm like, how the hell does she get anything done? Because people are always coming in and out, and then you got these like radio fucks coming in all the time bothering you. It's like,
But that's just part of it. I mean, you have to have a good relationship with people that you're working your records to, because obviously, you don't want to be a dick because, although there were reps that were dicks and they had reputations of being like that. And it was very interesting because there was someone I feel like that really cultivated that and really had a persona about them.
Yeah.
And but it served them well, I feel like, in one way. Yeah.
But I had a friend of mine who was a rep at Warner. I woke up one day to the doorbell ringing, and I didn't buy tickets, but there was a FedEx with 2 passes with backstage VIP passes to Lollapalooza.
Oh.
In St. Louis. So I went. I called a buddy of mine and went. And that's the year L7 bit me.
What? Oh, right.
The drummer from L7 bit me. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I had another really great woman I dealt with at Geffen who got us into see Depeche Mode and Nitzer Evans Chicago.
But see, you had these relationships with these people, and that, so it's the same thing, right?
Well, I was
You,
talking to the woman at Geffen before she left. Her last day, she was calling stations, and she got promoted. She wasn't leaving. She's like,
Mhm.
you're like one of 3 people that I talked with at radio that never asked if I was hot.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, I'm sorry to hear that. It's like,
Wow.
it's first of all, it's the phone. Second of all,
Yeah,
like,
right.
what does this have to do with playing records? Right.
Wow.
So that's when I kind of got a whiff of like,
Mm.
wow, this industry's really effed up for broads. Right. I'm kidding.
Broads.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I didn't really experience any of that from the people that I was talking to on the other end of the phone that I had to
Yeah.
promote to. That was definitely, I never got any of that. Thank God.
So one of the weirdest things I did when I lived in New York, and I think you know him, and I
Mhm.
don't think we ever talked about this, but somehow by going to the Limelight all the time, I think it was the Limelight, I ended up meeting Chumley Twist
Chumley, one of my old
and
dear
and
friends.
his girlfriend Alyssa.
Elisa, yeah.
They had this thing. They had like a cable access video show.
Yeah, they had a great show, yeah.
So I was like the guy that interviewed bands on it, like Big Video
Big
Dynamite.
Video Dynamite. Wait, you interviewed I must have
Yeah.
met you at that point too. Not met you because I already knew you, but I mean, I must have seen you at that point too with them in the not.
We saw you. I saw you like once or twice when I
Yeah,
was doing that. Yeah.
because I used to give them bands. I used to set
But
them up with bands a lot. Yeah.
but I remember interviewing the Prodigy, and I couldn't see him because the lights were so bright. And Meat Beat Manifesto and Moby, like the dance stuff was really big.
Yeah.
I think we interviewed Sunscreen, Meat Beat Manifesto, Consolidated.
Consolidated. These are bands, by the way, that I played with these guys. That somewhere on Network, or that we were like in Texas. My band opened for Meat Beat and 9 Inch Nails. That was a weird bill.
Really?
Yeah, we opened for Meat
So-
Beat 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, I don't.
That was the
think
horror story of 9 Inch Nails. Remember when we got bottles thrown at us and we were being spit
wow.
at, and there was no air conditioner in the summer in Texas? I mean, it was like a nightmare. But the Meat
Yeah.
Beat guys were like the nicest, most awesome people. I know also MC 900 Foot Jesus was playing on some of those. Yeah. It was weird. Anyway, sorry.
He's a pilot now. But I don't know still. But I read after he quit music, he got a pilot license.
That's cool.
I don't know anything else after that.
But Alyssa and Chumley, so that's wild. Gosh,
People
it's
ask
a
how you know
small
that.
world.
Yeah, I know. It's very weird. We haven't really talked about the Aquanettas though. So you're in the Aquanettas.
I'm in the Aquanettas from starting around 1989.
Because when I met you, you were in the Aquanettas and you were sort of gigging around, but you hadn't gotten signed yet.
I think so. You're right, because we did get signed at a new music seminar. It was 1989, so I did meet you way before then.
New music seminar. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we played at the rodeo bar, and Network signed us. So that's why we recorded our album in Canada.
That's the show I saw you guys play too.
Really?
Because I saw you once in New York. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think you were signed when I saw you.
Okay. It might have been Nightingales, which we played all the time, but Rodeo Bar was the one we got signed at.
It might have been Nightingales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was interesting because I was in a band that was signed, and then I was also working bands at a label. So it was a very kind of odd time in my life. Like I said, I would see, things that I understood the record company perspective. Really, I did. And the goal is to make money, but also at that time, people really were still developing bands and believing in them and giving them, 3, 4, 5 albums to break big. So it was a little bit of a better time, I think.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there, you would see the, some things that didn't sit well with me, obviously, as it being in a band. And then I was also, I had to go out and play and do my gigs and go on tour and be on the receiving end of that kind of treatment sometimes. I mean, I think our Network label was super sweet and awesome, and all the personnel were wonderful. IRS distributed us in the States. Some people there were great. Other people didn't really care. I think ultimately we were just some little drop in the bucket for them. Yeah. So it was like we were lost in the shuffle.
So then, the Aquanettas are in the rearview mirror, and we're close on time, but I do want to kind of touch base on this. I want to bring this full circle. You've given up the Aquanettas,
Yes.
and then you've returned to music with the Byrds album, and then There Was a Time.
Yes.
Can you just
So
kind of talk about those?
yes, so really, really super fast. I was after the Aquanettas, I was in a band called Psychic Penguin. Then I was
I
in a
didn't know
band.
that. Okay,
Yep, and then I was in a band, my own band called Birdie, that I was a
remember
singer
that.
songwriter for. I had 2 CDs out
Which
and
I
then
don't have, but I remember this.
oh, I have plenty of them. I'll send you some. And then I didn't do music for quite a while because I really got into bird watching, and well, I have to preface that before I sort of stopped playing, I was singing backup for a lot of people. I was really into just being a backup singer and sort of getting better vocally and really just singing for other people and not running a band, which I
Yeah.
found to be very hard to continue and be the like ringmaster kind of thing. I eventually kind of just faded out doing that, and I took a break for a while, and I one day sat on my couch and I was like thinking that I could combine music with bird watching, and that was the spark of my whole There Are Birds album from that came out in 2019. And then yes, I had that one single after called There Was a Time that is still sort of getting play here and there. And I'm going to be making a new EP/album. I don't know. I keep saying that. Is it ever going to come out? Let's take a bet.
Well, I mean, if Peter Gabriel can take as long as he takes to make records,
That's a good point.
You certainly can too, right?
That's a good point.
I mean, if there's lots of bands that haven't put out records in like 20 to 23 years, and they can.
Yeah, and I actually honestly never thought I would put another record out again before that There Are Birds record. I didn't. I really honestly was just like, that's it. I'll just sing back up for people and stuff. But so it's sort of interesting how, it's just another thing. Like I think as you and I, as we're around the same age, you're a couple of years younger than me. But as you get older, you realize, like it's not the end of this or that. There's always new things opening up. You can always do things. And I think that's one of the things as you get older that you can really appreciate more. Do you feel that way, like in your career?
Yeah, I mean, early on, I felt really guilty because, it's almost like imposter syndrome because I loved music so much, but I could never play anything, right? My version of playing the drums was more like beating the shit out of the drums, right?
Yeah.
Which is great if you want to be in a punk band, but doesn't really do much.
Yeah.
Then I quickly realized, I'm okay if I don't have any musical talent, but I can just still play records and get other people to like them, right? But I just can't imagine navigating that world with making the record and touring the record. And then people don't realize that, especially it's probably more so in the 90s than now, promoting a record in the 90s was hard ass work. I mean, that's some like back grinding work, but in both ways, both at the label promoting the record and the other stuff. Now everything's so instant, you can just say, well, I know you don't like this record, but this is how many, and I get this a lot, but it's gotten 7,000 views this week on,
Right.
So you don't, the way to have data and track the success of a record has changed so much since then.
It has, but some good, some bad, right? I mean, there's positive.
I mean, for me, the sense of discovery is not what it was because I used to just wander into a store, pick up something that looked cool and then like it.
I know.
And now it's just kind of like, they have the recommended if you like this. And I'm like, don't do that to me because half the time it's wrong. On the sleeve, they say, for fans of. And I'm like, they don't sound anything like these bands.
Right.
And everything says the Cars. For fans of the Cars. I'm like, no, stop this.
But I mean, you still, you can still find joy in doing what you do. And you also keep finding new ventures. You personally do.
Well, it's to a certain extent, it's survival and also ADHD. So that's part of it. And I think, when you do it, as long as you do in a place, doors kind of just open, right?
Yeah.
Because just out of it, in many ways, like you said, putting in the work, right? Or paying the dues. I mean,
and being talented, because you do have to be, you have a lot of talent and a great ear for these things. So
you also, there is a certain extent of like, okay, these people put in their dues or paid their time or,
Yeah.
which is why I think I read so many music books, because like these people put in the time and the effort to write the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read it. And you learn so much more about stuff too.
Yeah.
So,
And the backstories and stuff, which is always so
all the
interesting.
backstories are pretty incredible too,
Yep.
but I just think it's funny that, 30 years ago, you started off making records and talking about them, and now you've gone full circle and you're making records and talking about them.
I know it is funny. Yeah. And you are still playing records on the radio, which is so awesome.
Yeah, but I only have 6 people listening. So it's
No,
like when I
we
was on
know
the
that's
radio in
not
Brooklyn. When I was on
true.
the radio in Brooklyn, it was like the campus only station, and it got hurt, and it was like, oh, I have like 4 people listening or whatever, right? Whatever, right?
Well, we know that's not
But
the
we
case.
could play whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun too. So if Alan were here, he would tell us that we are at time.
Yeah.
What you gonna do, brothers and sisters, when thousands of geeky fans descend on Atlanta for 5 days and nights of the grandest con of them all? You can prepare by training, eating your vitamins, saying your prayers, and checking out the Dragon Con report each and every month leading up to the show. Watch or listen and let Dragon Con Mania run wild on you!
Thanks for doing this. This totally
This was
improv.
fun, just
This
you
totally
and me.
improv thing. So we should mention to people about our co-hosts that aren't here. Anthony Williams has a podcast called Watchers in the Fourth Dimension. They talk about Doctor Who. They're going through Doctor Who in order, starting from 1963, going all the way through. It's on hiatus right now, but it's a great deep dive, and listen to those. He's archived, and he's got some other things brewing. And Alan, our ringleader, has Cosmic Creative, which started from Cosmic Press, and he puts out books about lots of things. And he also has a ton of podcasts.
Yes,
he has a Doctor Who A to Z podcast. He has a Star Trek podcast every week. If you look up Alan Seiler on all of the social media channels, but MySpace, he's not on MySpace, you can find out information about him there. And Steph, where can people find out about you?
You can find me on Bandcamp under my name. You can find me at therearebirds.com. You can find me on Facebook at Stephanie Seymour Music. And you can find me on Instagram at there_r_birds.
And I should also talk about our sort of our understudy here from Modern Musicology, your husband, Bob,
Yes.
Because he has an album out too.
Bob has a great album called A World Like This.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
where can
and you
people
can
hear
find
that?
him. Well, he's on Bandcamp under Bob Perry,
Yeah.
Perry. And that's probably the best place to find him. He's also got Bob Perry Music on Instagram, and I think it's the same thing on Facebook. So thank you. And where can we find you, Rob? Where are all the places?
So you can find me on the Weekend Justice podcast with neatcoffee.com. Music, occasionally writing stuff for Inc. 19 and a couple places. And then I do a weekly radio show called Juxtaposition. It's Wednesday nights from 7 to 9 Central. Wednesday's a busy night, so if you're at home fixing your juicer or just chilling at home, you can listen to it on the archive stream every week at kdhx.org. All the shows are archived for 2 weeks. That's on Wednesdays. And then Mondays, 6 to 8 Greenwich Mean Time, which is 1 to 3 Eastern, 12 to 2 Central. I do a show on Louder Than War Radio called Antics. You can listen to that. And those are all on Louder Than War's page. You click on their website, you just find it. There's a Mixcloud page with all of the shows, and you can listen to them. They are not as long as War and Peace, but probably just as exhausting. So you can.
And they're both. But your shows are fantastic. Everyone should check them out. They're amazing.
Well, thank you. So this has been Modern Musicology. Please, we love having feedback on the show. So if there's any feedback you want to leave us, please do so on any of our socials. Or we do have an email. Don't we have an email, I believe?
We do. I think it's modernmusicology1@gmail.com.
Yeah. And send us some feedback. Tell us, your thoughts about the show or whatever. And, please, if you like us, like the show on our socials, but share it with someone, right?
Share and
the
also
best
rate.
Free gift you can ever have is to bring the always cordial and avuncular Alan Seiler into someone's home. So share that as well. So thank you for tuning in. Have a great night. And this has been the worst edition of Modern Musicology. This is the episode where Fonz has jumped the shark. Thank you for tuning in. And the full gang will be here next week. I may not be because my ratings tanked.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, Gracie.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.